Wellers. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about carbs and the glycemic index. Now, how much can we eat? This is very individualized. Okay, so if there is an athletic person or somebody who's working out regularly versus somebody who's sedentary, your carbohydrate needs are all very different. Men and women have different carbohydrate needs. And also, really, how any diagnoses that you have are going to affect your body's ability to digest and absorb carbohydrates. All that has to take into account. But let's talk about some things that are normal for everybody. Okay, fiber. Carbs, down here on the lower end of the glycemic index, these are fiber sources. Here's where we can get a little bit more specific with how many carbs or how many grams of fiber. The average American has about 12 grams of fiber in their diet. The recommendation is 20 to 25. But we see that every 10 grams or so more than that average of 12 grams that the average individual eats of fiber daily, all the way up to 40, can significantly reduce their LDL or their bad cholesterol more and more and more. Getting a huge amount of fiber in the diet is one clear-cut way to improving your cholesterol. Okay, so that's going to decrease your likelihood of developing chronic diseases and certainly managing any chronic diseases better. So we want to eat as much fiber as possible. I would go so far to say that carbohydrates should really be a vehicle for fiber in your body. Okay, so that's there's some exceptions to this, but we want to look at carbohydrates as being a vehicle for fiber to maximize the amount of fiber that you eat in your diet while keeping your carb count steady. We're looking at, for most women, consuming maybe 30 to 45 grams of fiber per meal when they have some metabolic condition or hormonal condition, diagnosed hormonal condition. Men, somewhere more like 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per meal. Some might say that that's quite a bit. And again, it is completely dependent on your individual situation. So get with me on that. I'll help you find out exactly how much. The point is, though, is that we're looking at grams of fiber or carbohydrate counts as divisible by 15. 15 grams of carbohydrate is going to count as our carbohydrate choice. This is going to be incredibly important for some of you as we go along. It's easier to count and memorize about how many carbohydrates are in a given food if you're always looking in sets of 15 carbs, okay? So for example, if we're looking at a very small piece of fruit, we're looking at maybe 15 grams of carbs. If it's a little larger, it might be more like 20 grams of carbs. And you'll be able to then estimate how many carbohydrates you can have per meal, somewhere between 30 to 45, again, for most women with an endocrine, metabolic, or digestive concern who are not athletes, okay, and more than that for men. So kind of having an idea how to estimate is important. Luckily, Mother Nature has equipped us with a wonderful way to figure it out. Our hand. Taking about a handful of high quality, low glycemic index carbohydrates is a great way to easily find out about how much carbohydrate you're having per meal. So if you're looking at, let's say, something like beans, and you put about a handful of them in your hand, you're going to get somewhere, for most women, you're going to get somewhere between about 30 and 45 grams. If you're a man, you're larger. You're going to have a larger hand. You're going to get a little closer to that 60 mark if you're using the handful rule. That helps solve a lot of questions when you're out and about. Does it work across the board with all carbs? No. You can't have a handful of sugar, right? Because that's going to be too many carbohydrates, and that's not necessarily going to be in line with your health goals. You're looking at high quality, lower glycemic index carbohydrates, and you're using the handful rule to help you keep your carb count steady through the day. This is going to be great because instead of having too many carbs at one meal and not enough at another, you're going to be nice and steady all day with your carb intake. Your blood sugar will be nice and steady, whether you have diabetes or otherwise. and you'll be able to set the stage for easier weight loss. So that's incredibly important. Using the handful will help you get there. So let's try it out in a couple of ways. If you're using beans, as I mentioned, no problem. Yes, oatmeal, same thing. Rice, same thing. Getting a little funnier here with a piece of bread, so I'll just give you an easy one. One slice of bread is the same, okay, as about a handful, usually about 15 grams, okay? Your sweet potatoes, same thing. You're talking about a handful of sweet potatoes. This apple is a little bit more than that handful, right? It's a little bigger. So I'm estimating that it's maybe an extra 5 grams of carbs, maybe hitting that 20 mark. Banana, oh, we've got 2 handfuls right here, okay? This is 2 servings of carbohydrates. A little clementine, as I mentioned. Will it work with fruit, dried fruit? That's going to be too much, similar to sugar. So you can see as you get closer over here to these very concentrated amounts of sugar, it's not going to be effective. It's also not going to be effective for some of your carbohydrates, some of your carbohydrates that are like low density. These Cheerios are fluffy. You can eat more than a handful of those, so knock yourself out. Don't forget though that dairy products also have carbohydrates in them. 1 cup of milk is going to be about 15 grams. How convenient is that? That's going to fit really nicely in to how you are choosing to cereal if you do dairy. One way I'd like you to try to set yourself up for the best success is to experiment on your own with some measuring cups at home. Take a scoop of beans, or take a scoop of rice, or take a scoop of Cheerios. Find out about how much you can hold in your hand. Okay, so for our more petite friends, they are going to be holding a little bit less. That might be, a half cup. If you're, a third of a cup. If you are a little larger, have man hands like I do, you're going to be looking at maybe more like a half cup. Some of our larger individuals might be, really 3/4 of a cup. Measure it out. Some of your favorite foods. If you eat cereal every morning, or if you eat, oatmeal every day, or if you have pasta frequently, just do yourself a favor. Just go through the exercise. Find out, okay, well, how many carbohydrates can I hold? Use these measuring cups, or use the label if you have something like crackers or Cheerios or whatever to help you also figure out about how many carbohydrates. Okay, so that gets into the math a little bit, all right? Don't worry, we're gonna get to it in more detail so that you've got all your bases covered as far as how we eat carbohydrates. Okay, see you at the next video. Thanks.